Hello everyone, welcome again to Carolie's Kitchen. Tonight I'm putting together a video so that once everybody else gets the ingredients, we can all cook this together. It's called Chicken Vesuvio, and it is one of the New York Times cooking recipes, and I find so many delicious recipes to make on that website. So tonight, chicken Vesuvio. So I hope that you've got things chopped up and kind of ready to go so we can get going cooking. One of the things that the recipe suggests is that we serve it with crusty bread. So I also am in the midst of putting together an Italian herb bread made from a mix from Pampered Chef. It's sitting right here doing its last bit of rising, and I can see I need to put my camera down just a little bit so that you can also see my stove. Everything is getting hot, the ovens, so let's get going. The first thing the recipe asks us to do is take those 3 large russet potatoes that we've scrubbed and halved lengthwise and then cut into 4-inch wedges, or just cut into wedges. And it says that we are supposed to use 3 tablespoons of the 5 tablespoons of oil that is suggested for this recipe, and we're going to put that all over these potatoes. A little salt and pepper, because we are going to roast these for about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how they're looking. In about 15 minutes, I'll make a decision about how much longer I need to do this. So there we go. So it's got the oregano and the oil. Then I'm just going to take this and mix it all up, get all of the potatoes really covered with the oil. That's what will make them roast nicely and brown nicely. So we'll get going with that. And then we kind of spread them out on the tray so that they're not really deeply piled on top of one another. Recipe says if they overlap a little bit, it's not going to hurt anything, but they will all cook so much more evenly and nicely if they are as individually placed on the tray as they can be. Okay, so everything seems to be pretty good. Some of these aren't covered quite as good with oil as I would like for them to be. Here we go. And some of them are jumping off the tray, of course. So here we go. Got that part done. Now let's stick these in the oven so that we can start getting our chicken cooked. I'm really lucky that I have this double oven so that I can do, at the end, I can put my pan and also the bread in at the same time to cook, because I have 2 different temperatures. So I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes, just to remind us to go in and do a little flipping around of those potatoes, but also to then determine how much longer we want to leave them in the oven. So let's get our oil in the pan. And I like to kind of swish that around with my brush. Of course, guys, everything I'm using is from Pampered Chef. So everything you see here, silicone brush, this lovely, lovely pan, which is 12 inches stainless steel nonstick. I've had it for years and it's still in lovely shape. You can use any kind of implement in it that you want, wood, metal, any of those kinds of things are not going to scratch this pan. And if your pan does scratch, Pampered Chef will replace it. So lifetime guarantee, lovely, lovely nonstick stainless steel pans. Highly recommend them for your kitchen. So let's get going. We're gonna get this chicken started. Well, it's good to turn the heat on, Carolee. While we do that, while the pan heats up, I'll put a little salt and pepper on this first bit of, and some oregano. On this chicken, and I'm probably going to have to do it in a couple of batches. You might find that we'll have to do it that way as well. So there we go. And we don't want to cook it on real high heat. I know we've talked about that before, how we really just run the result of burning things if we start things out on high heat. You can always turn things up or turn things down, but it's hard to undo something being burned. So I don't know, maybe I am going to get all of this in one pan. We'll see. More oregano on these. So how is your weekend going? What's going on with you? Are you watching the Olympics? They are very popular at our house. Living in the mountains of Colorado and teaching our kids to ski from the time they were small. We are really enjoying the Olympics right now. So how are you coming along? Do you have your potatoes in? And maybe a timer set for them so that we can check them. And then you can get your chicken started in your pan here. I'm going to put a little salt and pepper on the sides of this chicken. Now, one thing about the chicken that I've chosen is maybe a little different from you. It calls for skin-on chicken, and I just don't cook with skin-on chicken hardly ever, just because of the health ramifications from too much fat. So it's not going to really make the flavor of this recipe that much distinctly different. It will add a little more fat while you're cooking, so watch out for the spattering so nobody gets burned. But I'm just a little bit careful about that just for heart health. And today I should have a red shirt on, is Women's Heart Day. So I don't know if you have women in your family who are at risk for cardiovascular disease, but this is the time, this is the month for us to pay attention, especially with women, because there are so many signs and symptoms that women exhibit when they are having some kind of an emergent cardiac event that are different than men. Men so often get sweaty and feel like there's an elephant sitting on their chest, and that's not necessarily all the time what happens to women. Sometimes it's just heartburn that won't go away, and they say, oh, it's nothing, I'm going to take some Tums, or pain in an arm or in the back. So lots of things to educate yourself and your family on, so that we can take good care of the women in our lives and help to prevent heart attacks and strokes. So that being my little nurse since 1978 lecture on heart health, but it all comes from the fact that so I do try to take even just the little steps to pay attention to those things. So our recipe tells us that one side to the other, 8 to 10 minutes. So we'll watch this as it cooks, and we'll flip them over in just a minute. One of the other things that I wanted to show you tonight, I think I've shown it before, but I do want to show it again tonight, is the new mandolin from Pampered Chef. It's really, really wonderful. You're going to cut yourself with it. The blade is back behind this blade guard, and then when you're actually putting food into it, the food goes into it through this little food chute. See how this works? In here, and then you can press it down while you're actually chopping things up, and you're not going to ever get your fingers close to this chopping blade. It has 7 different settings for different widths of your food. It will also do straight cut or julienne, and it makes the greatest French fry cuts, guys. So if you like to make homemade French fries and you don't like all the work, you can cut up about 4 or 5 big potatoes in less than about 3 minutes with this. All beautifully sized cut French fried potatoes. So just something for you to think about to add to your kitchen. So this chicken is really starting to sizzle. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. How's everybody coming? Are y'all caught up? I think I'll let those sit on the side, that first side, for just another minute more. So do you have favorite events in the Olympics? One of the things I just don't get, and maybe some of you could really help me to understand, is curling. It's like, I just don't get it. I don't understand the big round thing that they use, that stone, and how they push it down, and then all this sweeping and sweeping. You think that people get enough of that at home, but you know, apparently it really helps to either slow down or change the direction or something of the stone. And then once it's down there, I have absolutely no idea how they do all of the scoring. But gosh, maybe one of you is a huge curling fan and could send me a little email or message on Messenger or something to say, here's what you need to know to enjoy curling. But curling is just something that I just don't get it. So let's turn a couple more of these and see how they're doing. Those are getting a lot more brown now. Please know that as we are browning his chicken, we are doing just that. We do want to get it cooked through as much as possible. So, you know, sometimes you really need to open up these chicken thighs so that they can cook through. They get really thick, but they will cook during that 25 to 30 minutes that we put it all in the oven to cook. So just a few minutes on each side. Keep an eye on our temperature. I'm going to turn them up just a little bit since we've just put a raw side in. See if we can't get them to cook. At a good speed. Oh, this bread is looking beautiful. The recipe is really fun for the bread. You mix it up and set it someplace warm. Since we have a wood stove, I set it on top of the wood stove, and then I put on top of the wood stove, I put a big piece of stoneware that I have, and I set it there, and it first rises for 2 hours, and then you take it out, and of course you do a little bit more of kneading with flour, and then you place it in a stone or in a baking sheet or in a bread pan. I've used this beautiful stone bread pan from the Pampered Chef Stoneware Selection. So that's what I've done. And you cover it and let it rest again for an hour. So if you're going to use these recipes, some of them are really quick from mixing it up to stick it in the oven, and some of them need a little bit more time. So this one certainly did need a little bit more time. I needed to cover it and let it rest for yet another hour. And then it bakes up pretty quickly. So I'll put it in the oven my second oven at the same time that I put our chicken Vesuvio in my upper oven, and it will cook at a different temperature. So one of the nice things about these stainless pans is that they come with a beautiful glass lid, so you can see what's happening to what it is that you're cooking, and I'll do that just to keep from getting a whole lot more spatter while the chicken is cooking. There is our reminder to go in and take a look at our potatoes and see how they're doing. Oh, they look lovely. I think I'll just use this spatula that I used before. I'm going to turn them. Now, you don't want these to be fully cooked when they come out of the oven, remember, because they will cook as well, finish cooking, when we put everything in the white wine sauce and put it in the oven to bake for 25 minutes. So I am flipping these over just so that they can brown nicely. And putting them just on another side. And let's cook these for about 7 more minutes or so. How are yours coming along? Let's try again. I think maybe I'll just stick them in for 5 more minutes. And we'll see, because the chicken will start to be done here pretty quick. And then I will take the chicken off out of the skillet. Remember, we're going to do that. Take it out of the skillet, put it on a plate, let it rest for a little bit while we actually make the sauce, which is very simple. It's made with unsalted butter, garlic cloves, chicken stock, dry white wine. And as far as dry white wine is concerned, when I'm cooking something that also has lemon, and it asks for dry white wine, there's 2 that you can choose from. I mean, you can use any dry white wine, but one would be a Chardonnay, and the other would be a Sauvignon Blanc. And I get this information from my good friend, John Verdillo, who is a wine man. And he says he would choose the Sauvignon Blanc. And that is because the grapes for the Sauvignon Blanc have almost a lemony flavor. So that when you're cooking with lemon and a dry white wine, if you use the Sauvignon Blanc, it really helps to enhance the flavor of the lemon. And of course, we are going to be using lemon on top of our chicken Vesuvio at the very end. So thank you, John, for that wonderful bit of education for me about wine, because I am not a sommelier, and I can hardly even say that word. So it's good to have friends and other people that we can learn things from, and it's nice to learn something new every day, isn't it? So I think what I'm going to do is check this chicken, see how it's coming along. Flip it over one more time, and then just to be sure, because you never want to undercook chicken, Pampered Chef makes this lovely thermometer. Look at me, I still have it in a box after years of use, but that way it keeps all the parts to it easy and at hand. It comes with a nice long oven thermometer, so that if you're cooking something in the oven, a roast or a turkey, and you're wanting to keep an eye on it, this 3-foot wire helps, because you can have your probe in the meat in the oven and watch it while it's cooking on the digital readout here. And this is cool because it has a magnet, so you can keep it stuck on your oven or whatever. And then it also has a short probe, as you can see, and that's what I'm going to use just to kind of check this chicken. I'm going to turn this heat down. I'm going to stick this into a piece that has pretty thick thigh. And that's at 157, so I think that that's good. You know, chicken should be, and turkey should be cooked to 165 to ensure that we're not eating raw chicken meat. Turn this off for a second. And let's get the chicken out of here. It's okay if you leave a few pieces in the pan to cook into the sauce. Won't hurt anything. How are you coming? Do you think your chicken is fairly nicely browned and ready to go? You know, if you need to use a little bit of extra time, don't worry about it. Okay, so I've got that going. I've turned up my pan. My potatoes are saying that they're ready to come out. So let's turn off that oven. Pet peeve of my husband. Because what I forget to do sometimes, I forget, that's heavy. I forget to actually turn off the oven. So we'll set this over here. Those look beautiful. Let me show you how golden brown they are. Sizzling and brown. See? Really pretty. Okay, so that part's ready. And we're going to be ready with our sauce quite quickly. So, we want to reduce the heat to medium low. Okay, guys? So, turn that down. Since I have turned off my pan, I'm hoping that nothing is going to burn, because I'm going to add my butter and my garlic to this skillet. Did you all slice your garlic nice and thin? It's going to smell so good. That's the one thing about all this cooking online. It's fun to do, but hard to really have people smell what you're cooking unless they're cooking it alongside you. So I hope that you have chosen to do that. Oh my gosh, the aroma of that garlic is just amazing, amazing, amazing. So 2 to 3 minutes cooking this. Doesn't take long. And since we have some bits of the chicken in here, hoping that they will help to add extra flavor to the sauce. All right, how's everybody coming with their garlic? Can you smell it? Isn't it wonderful? Okay, now time to add the chicken stock. 1¼ cups. Lovely measuring bowls. And your 1/4 cup of wine. And whatever wine you're going to cook with, your dry wine, is the perfect wine for you to serve your meal with. So we want to let this cook and simmer. For a couple of minutes. Turn it up just a little bit. This sauce, guys, is not going to turn out to be like a gravy. But it is going to be really nice. Some people, and I am even tempted myself, to add just a little thickening to it. But since the recipe doesn't call for it, and you guys aren't prepared to do that either, let's just stick to the recipe, do what we're told. One of the fun things about cooking is that the recipe is there as a guideline, and you can add things or subtract things according to how you might like to cook. So sometimes I like my sauces to be just a little bit thicker, not like a gravy, but just a little bit thicker. So next, we've done the chicken stock and the wine. It's not quite simmering yet. Let's let it do that. Are everybody's potatoes out of the oven? Don't burn them. Grab them up out of the oven. That would be a shame to come this far and then have your potatoes burn. So here we go. Now it's going to simmer. That's very nice. It smells really good. Maybe one of our grandchildren will invent smell-o-vision, so that when other cooks are doing these kinds of videos, people can actually not only see what's happening in the pan, but they can also smell the aroma of the wine and the garlic mixed together. Are you catching that in your own pan as we're cooking? Lovely. Okay, so we're going to let this simmer for 2 to 3 minutes. And then, time to add the peas here pretty quick. And then there's 2 ways that you can do the next step. You can add the potatoes to this to let it cook, or you can put them, just put all of this on the tray. Sometimes I have a hard time feeling good about putting kind of a runny sauce or any kind of a sauce on a tray that I'm moving in and out of the oven. So I am going to put my pan in the oven. So I'm going to put everything, I'll add everything back to the pan. I'm going to put the peas in now. Okay. Then it says add the potatoes, and I know that pan is hot, so I need to be careful. These potatoes look good, but they don't look necessarily completely done, and that's okay. So add those in. So pretty. And the oregano that is on the potatoes will really help to flavor the recipe. How's everybody doing? You with me? This is one of my favorite spatulas. It's called a fish spatula, and it's a Pampered Chef product, of course, but I use it for all kinds of things other than just fish. So, okay, there we go. Then I add the chicken back to the pan, along with whatever juices have been rendered from that cooking and from the chicken resting. Done here. Get the chicken put in. And recommends that you just let that go. Then, nice thing about this pan is that it goes on a glass top on an old stove that has the burners, the wire burners, and it also works with induction. So if you are an induction cook, these pans need to be something that you take a look at. They're just wonderful, and it can go into the oven up to 450 degrees, and since we're only using 425 now, I will be able to just put my pan, excuse me, I dropped my mitt. I'll be able to put my mitt, or my pan right in the oven. So that's ready to go. Turn off my burner. And we're in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to set this for 25 minutes. Okay. Oh, I'm having a problem here. I should know how to use my own oven, shouldn't I? Okay. Okay. So I've set that for 25 minutes. Now I'm going to get my bread ready to go. Oh, it's so pretty. So I'm going to use some of this olive oil and oregano that was left over. Let's see if I've got a little more over here. Here we go. A little more over here. I'm going to put that on top. And then I'm going to get my brush that I used earlier. I'm going to brush the top of this. There we go. And I'm going to make 3 cuts in dough. My dog is scratching at the door. If you can't hear that, he's pretty insistent. So I'm going to be able to let him out. And then we'll all just kind of sit and wait for a few minutes. And I'll be back as soon as the timer goes off and things are ready to come out of the oven. Okay? Oh, here. Take a look at how pretty this is now. I'm going to stick it in the oven. There we go. And I'm going to use my second timer here. And I will set that for 20 minutes. And get that going. So I've got 2 timers going. And I'm going to go get Coda and let him go outside. I'll see you soon, okay?